The ideal of love to be attained through Adam and Eve. God created Adam as the body of the invisible God. He had two purposes. First, to realize the ideal of love, and second, for the invisible God to make himself visible after taking on a form. For this reason, Adam and Eve are the base and core through which the invisible God can assume a visible form and establish a relationship with the visible world. So when Adam and Eve reach perfection and go to the spirit world, they are like God's body. Then the invisible God assumes a position corresponding to their mind. God's purpose in creating Adam and Eve was to have perfected people in the spirit world. As a result, he made their earthly world body and mind. 92-147, April 1st, 1977. What value would an invisible God staying alone in the heavenly kingdom have? It would be of no use. To be our parent, he must have a body and be able to feel. Because he needs to take on a body in human form, he had to create Adam and Eve as beings having dual characteristics. 133-91, July 10th, 1984. Why was it necessary to create Adam and Eve with dual characteristics? To become just like the invisible God, they must achieve mind-body unity within their lifetime, by the time they depart for the other world. Otherwise, when they appear in the other world, they cannot become one with God. God created Adam and Eve with a dual nature, so that the parents having substantial kingship in the physical world could become one with God as the invisible parent, and manifest a substantial kingship in the eternal heavenly world. Even God has no way of relating to the world without connecting with Adam and Eve. God must make a relationship with Adam and Eve in order to make a relationship with their sons and daughters. 133-91, July 10, 1984. God created human beings to place them in the equivalent parent's position and also to acquire a body. The equivalent parent's position means internal and external. In other words, the external God is Adam and Eve, and God himself is the internal God. In relation to the body, God is Adam and Eve, and in relation to the mind, God is the invisible God. This God is the parent of humankind, the original parent. There is only one such parent, not many. Because there is only one, God made Adam and Eve to be like a branch temple, having dual characteristics of male and female. God can enter this branch temple, and Adam and Eve can function in an ideal way only when God comes and dwells within them and acts. Without God acting, they would not know God's will. They would not know anything at all. 133-91, July 10th, 1984. God is in the position of the Father, the parent. God made human beings to be the gods of the earth and established himself as the God of heaven and the vertical God. This was so that heaven and earth can unite harmoniously and live together in love. Even God is lonely when he is all by himself. 221-113, October 23, 1991. The Creator is the vertical Father who is centered on vertical true love. Had they not fallen, the original human ancestors, Adam and Eve, would have been the perfected horizontal and physical parents, standing in the position where they could become fully one with God at a 90-degree angle. The Creator is the parent of heart centered on true love, and Adam and Eve are the horizontal physical parents. If the heavenly parent and earthly parents had united and become one, and then had sons and daughters, no one born on earth would need a religion. Everyone would naturally go straight to God's kingdom. Heaven and humankind would be united. All of humankind's complicated problems arose because of the fall. Without the fall, our mind and body would not have become separated. 210-139, December 17th, 1990. God created man and woman so that they could love each other and become one. Adam was not created for his own sake, or Eve for her own sake. God created Adam for Eve, and Eve for Adam. Also, God created Adam and Eve for his own love and joy. God did not create them for knowledge, power, or money. The omniscient and omnipotent God did not need those things. He needed only love. God did not create Adam and Eve in order to give them knowledge. It was not to give them power or abundant material possessions to allow them to enjoy an affluent life. His purpose in creating them was to establish them as the embodiments of love. God's purpose in creating human beings was to make the foundation of love through families. This is because without love, the world of creation would be hell and God's existence would have no meaning. God's purpose in creating human beings was love. You should know that this is the absolute law of creation. Blessed Family 307. Why did God create human beings? Man is east and woman west. Centering on the vertical God, a plane of 4 directions is needed. Since this covers 360 degrees, it has infinite area. What do we want to do with this space? The production unit, the starting point that produces the people for God's kingdom, is the earth. Hence, the people of God's kingdom are those who have lived on earth. Go and take a look around sometime. There is no kingdom other than the one on earth. Some say that there are people living in other parts of the universe, but that simply is not so. The entire universe was created for us. 206 to 209, October 7th, 1990. Are people better than God or not? In creating human beings, God could make only the vertical Adam and Eve. However, we can give birth to more than 20 children. God cannot do this. God made only one Adam and one Eve. Why? Because each is one absolute norm, and that which is vertical can make only one absolute man and one absolute woman. 236 to 259, November 8th, 1992. Adam and Eve were born as God's son and daughter, and they are the substantial manifestation of the twin embryos within God. This substantial manifestation of the invisible twin embryos of man and woman is Adam and Eve, a visible man and woman. This is how God's sons and daughters came into being. The ideal of creation is to perfect God's invisible realm of the heart in a substantial realm of the heart and unite the invisible and the visible. The ideal of creation is to establish the realm of the object partner based on love. 237-160, November 16th, 1992. Who is Adam? He is the substantial expression of half of God's internal characteristics. Who is Eve? She is the substantial expression and manifestation of God's feminine characteristics. Manifesting means they each assumed a body, a substantial expression. Before their manifestation took place, there existed a hidden motivating force which had not been revealed. This hidden motivating force is the person we in the Unification Church know as God, the invisible and incorporeal being. 140-123, February 9th, 1986. The only son and only daughter were the children born to be the corporeal object partners for the incorporeal God. Man represents God's positive characteristics, and woman represents God's negative characteristics. The principle of creation operates by separating into 2 objects the unified characteristics of the internal nature of God. He then harmonizes the 2 characteristics representing him and reunites them in a form that resembles his original internal nature. Man and woman are each born resembling one of God's characteristics. Hence, the union of the only son and only daughter is the union of God's positive and negative characteristics. In other words, they become a harmonious union resembling God. For this reason, 2 people, a husband and a wife, are a unified body that represents God in his entirety. 9-83, April 16th, 1960. Husband and wife stand as second creators. When a husband and wife become one and have children, they can go on forever. As they rise to the position of creator and have children, they can feel God's joy of creation on this earthly plane. For this reason, your wife must be like your son or daughter. She combines the positions of son and daughter and brother and sister. Thus, you cannot be separated from each other. Love is not arbitrary. Only when you have your children after following all these traditions will you reach the original standard that God initially desired as the ideal of creation. This is why the family is called the foundation of the kingdom of heaven. 223-24, 11th of July, 1991. As a husband and wife have children and rise to the position of parents, they come to feel deeply how much God rejoiced when He created human beings. Having children transforms the environment of having deep experiences into the essence of those experiences. Through those experiences, we become able to inherit the full authority of God, the great subject of heaven and earth. The parents' responsibilities include giving birth to and raising their children with care, continuing until the children marry. God should have raised Adam and Eve and blessed them in marriage, but He was unable to do so. Similarly, having given birth to children, Adam and Eve were unable to bless them in marriage. This bitter sorrow must be resolved. These are the fundamental principles of education. The conclusion is simple. 223-196, 11th of October, 1991. Human beings stand as horizontal parents. Adam and Eve are children and brother and sister and husband and wife at the same time. They then rise to the position of God by giving birth to sons and daughters. To give birth to and love children means to inherit everything that was joyful after God created human beings. 223 to 267, November 12th, 1991. Your children are the way God helps you feel joy in the position of a creator, the joy God felt when He created Adam and Eve. Children are the second creation, coming through Adam and Eve. The incorporeal God created Adam and Eve as beings of substance having a physical form. If Adam and Eve had reached perfection, they would have become the central representatives of love as the perfection of God's corporeal being. Just as God felt joy after creating Adam and Eve, children are given to you so that you can substantially feel and experience God's joy of creation. 238-62, November 19th, 1992. God seeks to realize His ideal of a harmonious family in the universe. That is why He seeks to bequeath His love by bringing children, brothers and sisters, husbands, wives, and parents into being. Because He has love, He positions us as second creators, creators of our sons and daughters, and He reveals to us the preciousness of our sons and daughters. 238-40, November the 19th, 1992. When a woman is expecting a baby, a new world emerges for her. When the baby starts moving, she has so much hope. This is how women should be. They have many dreams, like the ones God had when He created. To have the thought, I hope my child grows up and becomes so-and-so in the future, is in keeping with the heart God had when He prepared to create Adam and Eve. Such are women's three-dimensional dreams. With the thought, I am not alone. The entire world is in the hands of my child, and he or she is growing in my womb. Her mind embraces the whole world in love. 228 to 263. July 5th, 1992. The time when you come to the point of having a baby after marrying signals your move into the upper realm. You are rising to God's position. Loving your children is God's way of allowing you to experience His innermost heart and how much He loved human beings after He created them. 224-28, November 21st, 1991. God will come and dwell in Adam and Eve only when they love each other as God loves. He cannot come if they just do as they please. The invisible God will come to them only when they become completely one. In this way, God wants to give them a special title and position in relation to love and wrap them in cloth made of love. This is the ideal. Only then can God smell love. Wherever God goes, He sniffs the fragrance of love. 112-103, April 5th, 1981. then would God like kissing? The invisible God has no way to experience this by himself because his two aspects are attached together. When you make love, you come together and then separate, do you not? When the husband and wife love each other intensely in the beginning, their love is like thunder roaring and lightning striking. Their love burns, and then they return to the 0 point like clouds receding after the rain. 224-36, November 21st, 1991. God is a harmonious union of dual characteristics. At the same time, he is a masculine being. Since it is man who relates to God's fatherly love, a vertical relationship is formed. Women do not form a vertical relationship. Instead, they form a horizontal relationship in partnership with the vertical. Observing the attributes of God's character, man relates vertically in a relationship of above and below. A woman relates horizontally in a relationship of left and right. Which comes first, the vertical or the horizontal? Because the vertical comes first, all the principles of nature pursue and seek the path to draw close to that place. This is why the son comes before the daughter in relation to God's love. Only then will everything be arranged in order. 177-32405/22/1988. Women have their menstrual period once a month, don't they? Who is this for? You should know how precious your descendants are. The purpose of creating Adam and Eve was to produce citizens for God's kingdom. There is no way to produce them in the spirit world. God is the vertical master of love, and the vertical has only one axis. It has only one point. Since one point cannot produce anything, a horizontal area is needed. Thus, God's purpose in creating is to become one with humankind, multiply many citizens for his kingdom, and bring them all to heaven. 222-72, October 28, 1991. Husbands and wives are a production centre for the citizens of God's kingdom. So God inevitably had to create human beings. We are sons and daughters of the heavenly nation, and sons and daughters of God. No one knew that they are the base for producing, out of the flesh and blood of our first ancestors, citizens of God's kingdom on this earth by expanding our connection to the royal family of heaven. 219-49, August 25, 1991. No longer would God have been a lonely being after he saw an original man and woman making love. He would have come to feel a reciprocal joy as he witnessed how powerful the essence of the love latent within him is. God's will, 279. Do you think God sees you making love or not? Would God, who transcends time and space, close his eyes at night when the 5 billion people of the world make love? How would he feel when he sees them? How many good wives and good husbands are there? Think about it. All kinds of things should happen there. Reluctantly playing a wife's role, reluctantly being dragged along, reluctantly trying to please your spouse. You should not live like that. That is not love, is it? Is that life? How great the world would be if it turned into an environment where butterflies and bees flew around freely, and we could live in harmony within heaven and earth according to God's ideal of creation. It would be just like the Garden of Eden with floral fragrances, and God could fall asleep there in bliss. Have you ever thought about this? Try living like this. 222-252, November 3rd, 1991. God has not been able to reach the position of husband and wife or the position of parent. We must restore this. For this reason, true parents must come. Only when true parents appear and become the vertical and horizontal parents will everything bear fruit here, just as God multiplied ideal children at the time of creation. God carried out creation only vertically. However, Adam, once he has perfected his spiritual and physical self, can create horizontally. Although God created only two, a son and a daughter, People who stand as physical parents on behalf of God can multiply a limitless number of Adams and Eves. They can have 10, even 20. God cannot do this. As many people are born this way on the path of horizontal expansion, they will evolve into citizens of heaven. 236-146, 11th of April, 1992. True parents are the fruit of countless number of religions, a fruit that can represent God's greatest work of creation. They are the culmination of history, the purpose of religion, and the highest hope of humankind. Everything concludes with them. In them, there is freedom. Individuals and everything in heaven and earth are liberated through them. All these things, along with the unified heaven and earth, begin from love. 220 to 221, October 19th, 1991.